Jai Tulsidevyai Priyai Hai Keshavashacha Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Satya Vachai Namo Namaha. Jai Tulsi Maharani. Okay, well, class will get tuned the guitar first. Big turnout this morning.
I know. Good.
It's good. People watching online. You have a cold? Okay. Okay. I think we are ready to go. All right. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhova Jaya Kunda Vihari Vijana Mama Jaya Giri Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvadikacharya All Suteta Sitashi Shiva His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturidam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai. Yamunamai Ki Jai. Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Budale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarani. Okay, so Om Gana Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur and Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Okay. Oh, who's that?
I'm not sure.
Okay, make sure they have masks. And they can sit in the back. Thank you. So we're going to continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. So everybody be in the back, because when I read, I'm going to take my mask off. I don't want you all.
We've got our mask on, so.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I have COVID. I'm just saying that anybody could at this particular point. So we're reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Antya Lila, Chapter 4, and this particular section of the Caitanya Caritamrta is dealing with the discussion between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. And we're actually ending the chapter, maybe ending the chapter today. So yesterday it was a very interesting exchange between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sanatana Goswami. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was revealing the actual reason that he was embracing Sanatana Goswami, in spite of Sanatana Goswami having all these sores on his body with the pus coming out. Ew, pus. You like pus? No, I don't. So he said, first of all, the first thing he said is, I'm a sannyasi, I'm not supposed to distinguish between what's auspicious, what's inauspicious, what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, what's pretty. I'm not supposed to distinguish that. But then, Haridas Thakur said that's simply external. We want to hear the real reason. And then the next reason was that, do you remember? Anyone remember? No one remembers. Next reason was... The next reason was that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered Sanatana Goswami and Haridas Thakur to be like his children. So, this was the actual reason that he was affectionate towards them. In other words, if the mother happens to pass, or the child happens to pass stool on the mother, it's just nectar for the mother. Like Prabhupada said, the stool of the child is like sandalwood pulp for the mother. So they could do finger painting with it and everything. So, it's hard to understand, but you have to have a mother's mentality to understand that. And then, all right, that was the first point. And then another point, Lord Chaitanya said that whenever I embrace Sanatana Goswami, I just smell chatushama. I mean, like a mixture of sandalwood pulp and camphor and everything like that. A wonderful smell, because the body of a pure devotee is always spiritual. And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Sanatana Goswami, and guess what happened? Nobody knows. What? The sores disappeared. And then they all understood it was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's test of Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami passed the test, and in this way he was empowered more by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let's go on to the Caitanya Charitamrta. We're probably going to finish the chapter today. Okay, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Okay. And then also there was an explanation yesterday about how Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan and Rupa Goswami had left Vrindavan and he was going to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. So let's continue. Dvibhai mini Vrindavane vasakoila prabhura yajna dunhe saba nirvakila. The brothers met at Vrindavan, where they stayed to execute the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Sri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stabhidamyena Bhutale Swayamrupagadha Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam. That's Prabhupada's quote. When will Srila Rupa Goswami, who was established within the material world, the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami were previously ministers directly in charge of the government of Nawab Hussain Shah, and they were also householders, but later they became Goswamis. A Goswami, therefore, is one who executes the will of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The title Goswami is not an inherited designation. It is meant for a person who has controlled his sense gratification and dedicated his life to executing the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, Srila Sanatana Goswami and Srila Rupa Goswami became genuine Goswamis after dedicating their lives to the service of the Lord. So here Prabhupada is making reference to the Goswamis of Vrindavan. Goswamis of Vrindavan, not the 6 Goswamis that Prabhupada is making reference to, but he's making reference to the Goswami families in Vrindavan. Like if you go to the different temples, like the Radha Damodara temple, Radha Raman temple, there's always a Goswami families in charge of it. Some become Joe Goswami or Bill. No, not really. They'll have some the whole time they're in Vrindavan. Days and days and days, because the ladies just go wild. Oh, so many nice jewelry, so much nice jewelry, saris. It's beautiful here. You ever seen it? All right. So, anyway, so that's what Prabhupada is making reference to. Not the real Goswamis, but the Goswamis who have the familial title of Goswami. But the real Goswamis are engaged in, as described here, Nana Shastra Anilupta Tirtha Udita Rila Vrindavane Krishna Seva Prakasha Karila. Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami collected many revealed scriptures, and from the evidence in those scriptures, they excavated all the lost sites of pilgrimage. Thus, they established temples for the worship of Lord Krishna. And of course, many of them found the original deities that were installed by Brajanava, Krishna's great-grandson, like Radha Govinda. You know that story? Prema Yahaite Jane. Srila Sanatana Goswami wrote a commentary on the 10th canto known as the Dashama Tipani, from which we can understand the transcendental pastimes and ecstatic love of Lord Krishna. So that's his commentary. And actually, we have his commentary. We've read it. Hari Bhakti Vilasa Granta Kaila Vaishnava Achara Vaishnavera Kartavya Yahan Paye Para. He also compiled the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, from which we can understand the standard behavior of a devotee and the full extent of a Vaishnava's duty. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, this is Prabhupada's explanation here. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, which originally compiled by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Later, Gopal Bhatta Goswami produced a shortened version of it and added the Digdarshani Tika. That means a commentary. In the Hari Bhakti Vilasa, there are so many quotations from the Sattvata scriptures that sometimes it is inquired how the atheistic smartas can refuse to accept them and instead imagine some other opinions. What is recorded in the Hari Bhakti Vilas strictly follows the Vedic scriptures and is certainly pure, but the attitude of the karmis is always one of giving up the conclusion of the pure Vaishnava understanding. Because the karmis are very much attached to the material world and material activities, they always try to establish atheistic principles that oppose the understanding of the Vaishnavas. And Prabhupada also commented elsewhere that many of the injunctions in the Hari Bhakti Vilas are not meant for us. They're actually put there as bridge preaching for the ritualistic brahmanas. For example, there's one injunction in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that you shall not eat carrots. And every night I eat carrots.
I'm happy with that rule.
You don't like carrots?
No.
Okay, you're not supposed to eat potatoes either.
Oh, I don't like potatoes either. It's just carbs.
You're not supposed to eat tomatoes either.
Any veggie, that's fine with me.
Anyway, he's a ritualistic Brahmin. What can you do about it? So the reason is that the ritualistic Brahmanas had all these injunctions. So if Sanatana Goswami did not present these ritualistic injunctions as part of Vaishnavism, the ritualistic Brahmanas would have criticized us and not taken to Krishna consciousness. So therefore, he integrated into the Hari Bhakti Vilas certain things that are not necessary in devotional service, but are used by Brahmanas. You have rituals that are used for Brahmins. That's all. And Prabhupada makes that very clear. Another place in the Caitanya Caritamrta, he says certain rules that are followed in India are not meant to be followed in the West, and vice versa. So like there's injunctions that a sannyasi is not supposed to cross an ocean, for example, and obviously Prabhupada didn't follow that because he crossed an ocean. There's injunctions that if you see the face of a non-devotee, you're supposed to immediately run to the Ganges and jump in, even without changing your clothes. So we don't follow that one. Unless we take a spray bottle of Ganges water with us, and just like continually spritz ourselves throughout the day. It's not going to work. Actually, Prabhupada's sister, Pishima, used to do that. She always carried a spray bottle of Ganges water, and she always kept spraying herself and spraying everybody else with it throughout the day. She's a very interesting personality. Ariyata Granta Kaila Tahaye Kare Ganana Madana Gopala Govindera Seva Prakashana. Srila Sanatana Goswami also compiled many other books. Who can enumerate them? That means count them. The basic principle of all these books is to show us how to love Madan Mohan and Govindaji. That's very interesting. Let's see. It's interesting here. I was just thinking about this. In the Bengali, Madan Mohan is called Madana Gopal because that was his name before he was named Madan Mohan by Sanatana Goswami. And he was taken care of by a Chobe Brahmin family in Mathura. And when Sanatana Goswami saw how they were taking care of him, which was in a very, let's say, Raganuga way, they had the deity sitting at the dinner table with them. They had the deity playing marbles with their son. Sanatana Goswami chastised him, said the deity's meant to be on the altar. And that night, Sanatana Goswami had a dream, and Krishna came to him and said, "You spoiled all my fun." Because now I just have to stay on the altar. Before I was just like one of the family and enjoying life. And so you have to take me as a result. Sanatana Goswami said, how can I take you from a sannyasi? I don't have any temple. I'm supposed to write books. I'm supposed to chant Hare Krishna. There's no time for deity worship. He said, no, but then this Brahmana had a dream, and Krishna appeared to him and said, give the deity to Sanatana Goswami. And the next morning, Sanatana Goswami had the deity, and Sanatana Goswami really didn't know what to do as far as serving the deities. He actually put the deity in a pouch and hung the deity from the tree and worshipped him that way. And then he was just offering him some dried bread balls that he dried in the sun or cooked in the sun. And the deity complained. Famous story, of course. Krishna complained. He said, you're just offering me with something, dried bread balls, without any salt or ghee. And Sanatana Goswami said to him that if you want some salt, you've got to get it yourself. And then he arranged for a whole salt barge of salt. And anyways, that whole story that there was a salt barge on the Yamuna River that was actually stuck on a sandbar. The captain came up to Sanatana Goswami and said to Sanatana Goswami, please pray, please do something. And Sanatana Goswami said, just talk to Gopal, Madan Mohan, or Madan Gopal, just talk to him. And then the captain talked to the deity, and then there was a storm, and then the water came up, and the salt barge was freed, and the captain decided to dedicate all the profits to building the Madan Mohan temple. So the deity even arranged for his own temple construction and collection. It doesn't work nowadays, does it? You want to build a temple, you got to go out and collect the money yourself. So anyway, that's there in the Bengali. The Bhakti Ratnakara refers to the following books by Srila Sanatana Goswami: the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, the Hari Bhakti Vilas, and his commentary known as Digdarshani, the Lila Stava, that means verses about Krishna's Leelas, and 4, the commentary in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam known as the Vaishnava Toshani. Sanatana Goswami compiled many, many books, all with the aim of describing how to serve the principal deities of Vrindavan, Govinda, and Madan Gopal. Later, other deities were gradually established, and the importance of Vrindavan increased. Rupa Goshani Kaila, Rasamrita Sindhu Sara, Krishna Bhakti Rasarak Yahan, Paye Vistara. Srila Rupa Goswami also wrote many books, the most famous of which is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is our nectar of devotion. From that book, one can understand the essence of devotional service to Krishna and the transcendental mellows one can derive from such service. Ujjala Nilamani Nama Granta Kaila Hara Radha Krishna Lila Rasa Tahan Paye Para. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled a book named Ujjala Nilamani, from which one can understand to the fullest limits the loving affairs of Shri Radha and Krishna. So the Ujjala Nilamani by Srila Rupa Goswami is the postgraduate study of the nectar of devotion. They're actually considered a pair of books. First, when one is fully integrated into one's life and understood the nectar of devotion, then one can read the Ujjala Nilamani. It's very, very elevated. Vidagda Madhava Lalita Madhava Nataka Yugala Krishna Lila Rasatahan Paye Sakala. Srila Rupa Goswami also compiled 2 important dramas, namely Vidagda Madhava and Lita Madhava, from which one can understand all the mellows derived from the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Of course, Vidagda Madhava deals with Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and Lita Madhava deals with Krishna's pastimes. They're actually plays or dramas here. Lita Madhava deals with Krishna's pastimes primarily in Dwarka. And I told some of those stories the other day about how Radharani becomes Satyabhama and Rukmini is actually Chandravali, like that. I actually told that story. And if you're interested in hearing them, they're available on IskonDesireTree.com as audiobooks under my name. And my name, if you don't know that, you shouldn't be listening to this class anyway, is Bir Krishna Goswami. So Dana Keli Komudi Ari Laksha Granta Kala Se Savagrante Vajra Rasa Vicharila. Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 verses, beginning with the book Dana Keli Komudi. That's basically has to do with the tax pastime. In all these scriptures, he elaborately explained the transcendental mellows of the activities of Vrindavan, referring to the words Laksha Granta, 100,000 verses. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the total number of verses written by Srila Rupa Goswami is 100,000, Eka Laksha or Laksha Granta. The copyists count both the verses and the prose sections of the Sanskrit works. One should not mistakenly think that Srila Rupa Goswami compiled 100,000 books. He actually wrote 16 books, as mentioned in the first wave of the Bhakti Ratnakara, Shri Rupa Goswami Grantha Shodasha Karila. Tanra Lagu Brata Shri Vallabha Anupama Tanra Putra Maha Pandita Jiva Goswami Nama. The son of Shri Vallabha or Anupama, Srila Rupa Goswami's younger brother, was a great learned scholar named Srila Jiva Goswami. Sarvatyagi Tenho Pache Aila Vrindavana Tena Bhakti Shastra Bahu Kaila Pracharana. After renouncing everything, Srila Jiva Goswami went to Vrindavan. Later he also wrote many books on devotional service and expanded the work of preaching. Bhagavata Sandarbha Nama Kaila Granta Sara Bhagavata Sirantera Tahan Paye Para. In particular, Srila Jiva Goswami compiled a book named Bhagavata Sandarbha or Sat Sandarbha, which is the essence of all scriptures. From this book one can obtain a conclusive understanding of devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gopala Champu Nama Granta Sara Kaila Raja Prema Lila Rasa Sara Dekaila. He also compiled a book named Gopal Champu. It's a really amazing book, which is the essence of all Vedic literature. In this book, he has exhibited the ecstatic, loving transactions and pastimes of Radha and Krishna and Vrindavan. I'm also working on that as far as narrating that book. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. And some of those narrations are available on isgoddesiretree.com. Satsandarabe Krishna Prema Tattva Kashila Chari Laksha Granta Teno Vishtara Karila. In the Satsandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami set forth the truth about transcendental love of Krishna. In this way, he expanded 400,000 verses in all his books. That's amazing. Jiva Goswami Gora Hate Mathura Chalila Nityananda Prabhu Tani Agya Mahanila. When Jiva Goswami wanted to go to Mathura from Bengal, he requested permission from Srila Nityananda Prabhu. Prabhu Priche Tanra Mate Dalila Chadana Rupa Gosanata Samban De Kaila Alingana. Because of Jiva Goswami's relationship with Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, who were greatly favored by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu placed his feet on the head of Srila Jiva Goswami and embraced him. Wow. Agnadila Shiratumi Yaha Vrindavane Tomaravamsi Prabhu Diachena Sestane. Lord Nityananda Prabhu ordered, yes, go soon to Vrindavan. That place has been awarded to your family, to your father and uncles by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and therefore you must go there immediately. Tandra Gnaya Oila Agya Pala Paila Shastrakari Katakala Bhakti Pracharila. By the order of Nityananda Prabhu, he went to Vrindavan and actually achieved the result of his order, for he compiled many books for a long time and preached the cult of bhakti from there. Tina Guru Araganatha Dasa Inhasavara Chandanavandon Yanra Munidasa. These three, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Jiva Goswami, are my spiritual masters, and so also is Raghunath Das Goswami. I therefore offer prayers at their lotus feet, for I am their servant. Etakai hilun puna sanatana sangame prabhura shaya jani yahara shravane. Thus I have described how the Lord again met with Sanatana Goswami. By hearing this, I can understand the Lord's desire. Caitanya Caritamrta Ikshudanda Sama Theravana Karite Haya Rasa Ashwadana. The characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like sugar cane that one can chew to relish transcendental juice. It looks like we're finishing the chapter, and then we can take questions. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Shah Chaitanya Charitamrta Kaye Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishnadas, narrate Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports, the Shri Chaitanya Charitamrta, Antya Lila, 4th chapter, describing Sanatana Goswami's stay with the Lord at Jagannath Puri. So, ending chapter 4. And tomorrow we begin chapter 5. So now we will stop sharing the screen and see. First, we'll give the opportunity to the thousands of devotees sitting here to ask questions. So, yes.
Okay, so a couple of days ago we were talking about how it's okay to have like Shivji and like those other deities on the altar, but just at a lower level.
That's right.
So then how come we have other forms of Krishna? So like Jagannath Baldas with Sitaram Lakshman, Nrsimhadev, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How come we have them on a lower level compared to Radha Rasbihari and Ladhu Gopal?
That's very interesting. Interesting question. Well, it's not that they have to be on a lower level. It's just that all the Vishnu Tattva deities have to be at least on some higher level than the other deities, but it's sometimes there's no room on the altar.
Yeah.
It's basically a practical thing. If you had room on the altar, they'd all be on the same level. So sometimes you just have to make a judgment call. It's not based on any particular hierarchy.
So then how would you decide which deities would go lower than the other?
Who's your favorite deity? Where you have space. I would say where you have space, what's practical, and who's the main deity being worshipped in the temple. Because in every temple, smaller temples at least, there's a main deity. And the other deities are, just like generally Lord Nrsimhadev is at a lower level than Radha and Krishna. Usually Radha Krishna are at the highest level. However, I remember one temple in London, they had Jagannath all the way in the top and Radha Krishna the lower. So it's not, and Prabhupada, of course, was there. He was there at the opening of the temple. So it's really no hard and fast rules. It's just a question of, in many cases, just a question of practicality. So it's a good question, though. A good question. But those who are not Vishnu Tattvas, like the gurus, like the demigods, they should go lower than all the Vishnu Tattva deities.
We've got Tulsi Bharani on, I guess, same level as Sitaram and all.
Yeah, that's actually special. Because Tulsi Bharani is always at the lotus feet. Yeah, that's a very special exception. Actually, that's a good point. She's always at the lotus feet of the Vishnu Tattva deities. So it's appropriate to have her there, not exactly higher. I can't see the deities from here.
Same level as Sitaram.
Same level, but is the head of Sita and Ram?
No, definitely not.
The head of Sita and Ram is higher than Tulsi,
Yes.
so that's the point. That's the point. So she's lower than the head. You wouldn't want to have her higher than the head because she doesn't belong on the head of Ram. Actually, she doesn't. She belongs at the feet of Ram, and she's not offered to Sita Devi. She's offered only to Ram, Vishnu Tattva. And sometimes you have Hanuman too. Hanuman's up there, but he's there in a combined.
Yes.
Combined with the Lord. So that's another exception. That's a good point. It's a good point. I never thought of that point before. Okay, who else wants to ask a question? Questions, comments, arguments, problems? Okay, anyone online? You fortunate souls online. Actually, there's people from the Sydney area online too. It's interesting. Previously, they were all here. So, anyone online want to ask a question?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Haribal by Caitanya. Good to see you.
Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay, so my blessings. So, what's up?
Gurudev, the story about that the Brahmin playing having the deities play marble, and how that personal interaction is happening, and then of course with Sanatana Goswami Maharaj saying that we should be having the deity on the altar. What is there for, sometimes we hear that Krishna doesn't want that awe and reverence worship and wants that intimate relationship. How are we to understand then how we interact with Krishna in these sorts of situations? What does he really want?
Well, actually, Krishna wants that intimate relationship if one is on the pure devotional platform. And if you're not on the pure devotional platform, then you're basically worshiping by the mercy of the spiritual master in the awe-reverent mood. And that's what Krishna wants at that particular circumstance. So it actually depends on who's worshiping him. If the person worshiping him is a great pure devotee like Prabhupada, then it's actually on the spontaneous platform. But if the person worshiping him is just like some neophyte, new devotee, or Madhyamadikari, then it should be done in the mood of awe and reverence. So.
Right. Thank you, Gurudev. That makes sense.
Yeah, so it depends. And right now,
Yeah,
everybody should be worshiping Krishna in the mood of awe and reverence.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was just shown a picture the other day of how they were worshiping the deities in Cessnock. That they actually worship Radha and Krishna as Sita and Ram on Ram Navami. And I said, this is, maybe if someone is like on a static, like whatever, Raganuga platform, you can do that. But this is, actually, it's an offense on deity worship. They use the deities like dolls to depict certain pastimes. So one has to be very, very careful not to use the deities for a dramatic performance. Even though, ontologically, yes, Krishna and Ram are the same person. We're not denying that. But the deities are installed in a certain mood, and there's a certain manifestation of Krishna, and you can't interfere with the mood of the deities, the mood of Krishna. It's just like if you were to go in Vrindavan and give Krishna a bow, it wouldn't have been appropriate. It's just not appropriate to give Krishna a bow or to just see him as another manifestation in Vrindavan. It just wouldn't be appropriate. Okay, let's see other questions here. All right, here, wow, a lot of quite people typing in questions here. People are feeling their oats. We have Lord Buddha, deity from the past, we placed behind the Guru Parampara. Understand? Shaktavesh, avatar, yeah, you can put on the altar along with the acharyas. Lord Buddha. Shivasa Acharya in Panchatattva, Shivasa. It's not really called Shivasa Acharya. Srinivasa is called Srinivasa Acharya, but Srivasa is called Srivas Pandit. So Shivas in Panchatattva is at the same level as the deities. Is Shivasa Acharya Vishnu Tattva? No, he is Jiva Tattva. But then they're a whole group. It's not a separate deity. You can't really cut your Panchatattva picture. It's like Hanuman. It's like Hanuman and Sita and Ram and Lakshman. So it's the same thing. No, you can't. And those are the exceptions. This is very interesting. There are exceptions, which I didn't talk about yesterday when I was talking about this.
Devotees on there, that's why I can't cut that out.
They're pure devotees, but generally pure devotees, if it was in separate picture, would be at a lower level. But if it's part of the same grouping, then obviously you're not going to start cutting the pictures, snipping at the pictures. Or for preaching, should we move the deity away from the main altar? Is not all visitors understand what? Understand might confuse with Krishna content. For preaching, should we move the deity away from the main altar? Wow.
Gurudev, Lord Buddha's deity.
Lord Buddha's deity? Yeah. Oh, yeah, the Lord Buddha deity. Maybe it's better not to have that on the same altar, because for preaching, it really would... We get all sorts of confusion from the people who come. Oh, you're Buddhist.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that, Nalini Kant. Because otherwise I didn't understand what you were asking. Okay. I think that's it. No other questions today. Thank you all. We ended the chapter 4. Tomorrow we'll begin with chapter 5 of the Antya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta. Okay. All glories to His divine grace.